Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Magic is Real. Happy New Year. The last few months have been pretty busy. People have not been available for interviews, so we've had a little bit of a hiatus, but we're back. And in case you don't know me, I'm Shannon. I am the host of this podcast where we talk about near death experiences, spirit communication, and all things metaphysical and spiritual. I am a psychic medium, and I am very excited today to have with me another evidential psychic medium. Her name is Barbara Banner. She is a certified medium working for helping parents heal. And we're here to talk about her journey, which is in some ways very similar to mine.
Yes,
So, Barbara, thank you so much for joining me today. I have been looking forward to this for a while, and I'm really happy that you've decided to join me and us.
I'm so excited too. I love doing this.
Me too. It's my favorite. Well, I'm just going to start by I'm going to ask you all about yourself because you started off as a crisis hotline volunteer. This was not something that you knew that you were going to be doing. Like you, like you, begun my mediumship training during the pandemic. For now, I know where I was divinely guided to. It's a long
Exactly.
story. It's my story. I want to hear your story. But I would just love to know about you. And you can even start with whatever your spiritual journey has been, even up to then, because I'm sure that you've had experiences, whether you were aware of them or not. So wherever you'd like to start, who are you? What's your life all about?
Well, I'm from LA, and so it's the land of woo woo. But I didn't really get into it. When I was younger, I thought I didn't know about mediumship or anything. I thought I think I'm a witch. When you're 13 years old, and you can tell a little of the future. So that's where I knew something. But like, at 16, my mother gave me a Ouija board. And I thought, what the heck is this? I need some white go-go boots. I mean, I didn't, I didn't understand it. But then I don't know. I just was. I spent 14 years as a volunteer on a crisis hotline for women. I just thought, I want to do something. I want to help, but I don't want to just write a check. I want to get in there and I want to talk to people. So that was my first one. Then I was guided to the ER at like one of the biggest hospitals in the country, Cedars, and I'm in the ER helping people grief with everything. And then the craziest one came. Someone told me about the LA crisis response team for the mayor, a special project where we go out to a scene where there's a dead body, and the police are there, and then the family comes on scene. So the police have to measure and get evidence and everything. And so we would deal with people who literally just lost somebody minutes ago. And I thought, people said to me, why are you doing that, for God's sake? What are you doing? I said, I do it because I can. I just had no problem with helping them and being on a scene like that. So that's where that was divinely guided. I mean, nobody picks that for a fun volunteer job, for on once a week. So just guided there. And then the pandemic, all my friends are watching Netflix, binge watching. I'm taking a paranormal stuff was going around the house like crazy. So I said, Spirit wants to talk to me. Who am I to say no? So I took a class, and then 7 months later, people said, hang a shingle. So I just started donating readings, and boom, it's been it's been amazing. And I'm so grateful they picked me to do this because, got to keep upgrading and reinventing yourself. So this one was a real surprise to everybody.
Me too. Thank you for sharing that. We were discussing how exciting it is that we came to this later in life. And, it's that's and maybe I don't know, I can't speak for someone that's been doing it since they were 5, but
Right.
for us it's still so exciting all the time. And I think a lot of mediums would say that. So I would love to talk about this because I think a lot of people, including myself, are. or were under the impression that you had to be born this way. It had to be a special gift given to you. And I will say that, yes, not everyone is going to take to mediumship or be as adept at it as others, but we can all learn it because we're
We
all
can.
souls. And I'd love
Yeah.
to hear your thoughts about that.
Well, that's interesting. When you said, because Suzanne Giesman, who was my first teacher,
I can't
said,
wait to study with her.
"Oh yeah, she's amazing." She said, everybody can learn how to do this, but not everybody is going to be. Everyone can learn how to play the piano, but not everyone's going to be a Mozart, and everyone can learn how to do this. I didn't find out till my mother was 103 and a half years old that my grandmother had some juju, and she was intuitive. And I said to her, I said, "Mom, you're 103. Were you ever going to tell me this, that my grandmother did this?" And, she just blew it off. But I love channelers. I'm doing trance now as well. I love going to them, and they all say the same thing. Honey, you've been doing this for 1,000 years. So they say, what do if a little 4-year-old gets on the piano and he starts playing, Rachmaninoff. How does he do that? He didn't even have a lesson. It's because he's done it in another lifetime. So I know I have, and I bet you have too, because you just don't come on the scene and start helping people like that without some
Yeah.
background.
Very well said. One of my friends who was a medium who first encouraged me, he's now on the other side. He uh, said to me in the beginning, I kept saying, I'm a developing medium. He said, stop saying that. You are, just say, I am a medium. And I said, but am I though? And he said, well, why did you want to be a medium? I said, I don't know. I just did. He goes, because you're a medium. I mean, simple as that.
I think the hardest thing for me in learning and with all these classes and trips to, Arthur Finley and everything, I think the hardest thing to overcome is trust that what you're getting is real, and you should say it, even if it sounds ridiculous. And I think that's the last thing when I started just give it to me, guides, just lay it on me, and I'm putting it out there. So no matter what craziness comes out, I just say it.
Yes. I tattooed trust on my wrist. That's how much I need that touchstone. And I'd love to talk about that now is I heard you also say in another interview that it's pretty basic, but it's everything. So you said something along the lines of really, it's just learning to trust your intuition. And even years later, I've only now just gotten to the place where I'm like, I'm just letting go of being right. It
Surrender.
doesn't, so just relax and literally, it actually doesn't feel like anything. It's like the more we try, it's like Yoda. It's like there is no try. Just do,
Right.
just be, just say, just speak.
You can't go in and say, "Tell me this, tell me this." Just they're going to give you what you need, or
Yeah.
what the client needs, and spirit knows a lot more than we do. So I'm just like, my mouth's open. You make it talk and tell me what I need to say, and that's why that's how I work.
Isn't that wild?
It's
So
crazy.
what did, I know oh, I have so many questions for you, but
We're so excited,
I'm so excited too because it's like I'm always continually learning and it gets easier and easier the more I'm like, wait, literally I don't have to do anything. So recently I did my first group reading in town and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. What if I can't do it? What if?" So I show up at the door, I immediately start feeling spirit tingles. I'm like, "Okay, that's a good sign." And I said, "Can I just meditate for in this other room?" And I went and I felt there's a pig here. And I texted my other medium friend, the medium Shannon, and I was like, "This is so weird." She's like, "Shannon, just say it. Like just say it." So I go out there and I'm like, "All right, guys, the first thing I have is a pig and it's a girl and she thinks she's one of the dogs." And this woman's like, "That's my pig, Daisy." So it's like, you just have to be like, just just just
It
go,
doesn't,
just
we
say.
don't have to understand it as medium.
No.
As long as the client can take it and other people can say, yeah, I understand that, it resonates. That's all. It's not for us to judge.
Right. So when you first started taking these classes, did you find I would love to hear about that, kind of what you how you got to that place of trust. Like, did you go in going, "I don't know if I can do this at all?" Or were you kind of like, "Whatever, I'm just gonna kinda" anything. What were your thoughts? And also, how did you what was the biggest thing you learned about trusting your intuition and what that really means and what intuition is? Just riff on that.
Well, the first time in Suzanne's class that we got together with another classmate, Zoom, and we were going to read each other on our first reading. Um, I was excited, but I figured, Suzanne said, you could have beginner's luck. Don't worry, you could just do it. And so the first thing I said is, do you know a guy named Thomas who has a white dog? And the woman said, yeah. And that was it. Then I realized, okay, this is easy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
this, I'm supposed to be doing that. I was just supposed to be
Yeah.
doing it. Trust. That was the hardest thing. It's because your ego, it's all ego. Everything bad that or that holds us back is probably ego. And I've learned this because I'm doing trance now. And like if you're in a class and there's everyone else is doing it, but everyone is already meditated, you can hear what you're saying and you're afraid it's wrong, um, or that you'll look like an idiot for saying it. And that puts your head in it. And once your head is in it, all things can go kablooey. It's just, you got to keep your head out of it. And that's something actually in trance that I loved. I said, it's better when I'm not involved in this. I'm just going to like go, spirit's going to just talk through me. And I don't want to know anything. And I don't remember what I say. And it's the best because we're not important in this really.
Yeah. It isn't
We're just,
about us.
yeah, it isn't. So you just, yeah. Um, I always
I would
had intuition.
yeah.
Even when I was like a teenager, I would watch, this is going to date me, but maybe you can cut this part out. Like Sylvia Brown,
Oh, yeah,
she's like an oldie
on
but goodie.
Montel.
Oh yeah. And I, have her book. I used to watch her stuff. I mean, I always, and paranormal stuff, at birthday parties when we were teenagers, we try to lift
Light
everybody
as a
up.
feather, stiff as a board.
Yeah. It's like, it's just, it was, and I realized it's in my blood, it's in my background. I was always interested. So you just get to a point where you're tired. I guess I was just tired of second guessing and maybe not saying something that I was being told because I didn't want to be wrong. And, it just like, just say it, just say it.
I
And
think
that's
that's
trusting.
yeah, it is. It's knowing that it's not about trusting you, you're
Right.
trusting spirit.
Them.
And I always say that in the beginning of a reading. Please just let me trust you. I trust you. And I say, I trust you. I trust you. I trust you. And just let it go. This isn't, you're not going to look like a fool. If messages don't resonate, there can be reasons for that. Let me ask you that. If for some reason something isn't resonating, why might that be?
Well, it's, as any of my mentors would say, because it's in my head. But now,
Yes.
now with now I go in. I said, if something doesn't resonate, just blurt out no. That's fine.
Yeah.
And I go into my team, who's very funny, and I try to see what I did wrong because it's in. I tell them, spirit cannot be wrong.
Yep.
They're always right. It's when the comes down the funnel into us. So I just go in and they show me a lot of, it's usually, okay, I'm getting goosebumps now. I don't even know
Mm,
here. It's either I've added a word to be dramatic, um, or I forgot a word, and 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 it's usually one of those things, or I just pivot a little And I realized, okay, I always say, if I use the word da 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 instead of does that make sense? She goes, totally. So I have to figure out what I did. And before, I didn't really know how to figure out if someone said, no, I don't understand it. And I didn't really know how to figure out why that happened. I just knew that it was something in me, but now I can fix it. And
Yeah.
that's a big thing. I can figure out what I did wrong because I'm taking responsibility.
Me too. I always say in the beginning, my speech is, don't be afraid to say no to me. It won't hurt
Right.
my feelings. It's part of the process. I say, there are three reasons you might not recognize the message. One, you don't know about it yet, but tomorrow I'll get a text from you and say, my mom confirmed this, which happens all the
All
time.
the
Like
time.
sometimes in a big, long letter of, up, now I realize psychic amnesia where you don't remember at the moment, then you do, or you find it out later.
They
That's
have
one
so
thing.
many things coming at them that
Oh, so
they
many
can't
things.
process. They need I do an audio tape and send it to them, and then they really can see, oh, I didn't understand that then, but yeah, and I asked my sister, and yeah, so it's helpful.
Same. And then I tell them the other reason is I might be misinterpreting it, like you said. I
Hmm.
might be sometimes I always say, "Oh, I think I took that too far." I'll be like, "I see a cigar. Did he smoke cigars? Did he?" And they're all like, "No, I already know what that is. That's a joke we have or something." It's like, and
Right.
I'm trying to make sense of it instead of letting them figure it out. Um, so it's a practice of saying, "This is just what I'm seeing. I don't know what it means. Does it mean something to you?" And the third thing is I always say, or I might just be completely wrong. I might be in my head because we're just a human vessel.
Right.
And I believe it was um, Mavis Patilla who said that even the best mediums are only 75% accurate.
I thought it was
It
85%,
might, you're probably right
well,
because you went to Arthur Finley and probably heard it first
but yeah,
hand.
it's we can't be 100% all the time, because we're not 100%. Some we could have woken up and didn't have enough sleep, or
Right?
the dog tore up my homework, or anything it could be that gets us off, or gets us off kilter. And you don't want to make excuses, but we're just humans on this earth right now too, and it is everything isn't the same every day.
Yes, and I will say an example that I'd love to hear your comments about is I had a client once and her young husband had died in a very tragic way. So I thought for sure easy connection because he's like 35, he's young, usually, and they were so in love and this will be easy to connect. Well, nothing came through. So she said, honestly, I wanted to cancel today because I'd already canceled on you once and I don't feel well and I'm in real grief. And I said, "Honey, you don't ever have to worry about canceling. It's fine. I don't want you." And I said, "I'm just going to trust that he knows you aren't it's not the time." But secretly I was second guessing myself. What if it's me? A month later we did the reading. Immediately I said, "Who has the last name Brown?" He does. Who's who liked spaghettios out of a can? He did. And then I'm like, "Okay, it was just sometimes
It's
spirit
just not the
knows
right time.
it's not the right time." Yeah, so I'd love to hear because you're talking about trance channeling, and this is something I do not have personal experience with, and I'd love to hear if you can just explain to people who don't know what it is, what your interest in it is, anything you want to share about it, and what the process is, and how it works.
Well, I was seeing, a bunch of us became friends at Arthur Finley, and we do a monthly practice together. And one of the women was taking channeling from Nico, the medium, who was great. And I said, what happened to you? I mean, you're just like killing it. What it's like, and you're not even like looking. You're just. She said, I'm doing trance now, and it solves our problem of being inaccurate, because our brain is not involved. We do this. We do it. We change our consciousness. We alter our vibration and our frequency to a different point. I do this meditation now for everything, even if I'm not, even if I'm just doing a regular reading, or um, because it takes you out of your head and it puts your higher self and your guides together melding, and they seem to, they can't be wrong. So if my head is out of it, it just, the accuracy is amazing because I'm not involved. They don't really need me, you know. If they just had a megahorn, they could just yell it out. But that's the difference. I just get into a different state of mind. It's that simple, where I have surrendered to them to give me the right words. And the words, I can hear them sometimes, and that's okay. But I just started, and then they just keep talking. And I remember a word here, but at the end, I don't remember, you know, I couldn't tell you what I said. Um, as long as they say, I resonated with everything. It all made sense.
Yeah.
So it's the next step. You're gonna love it. It's the next step in getting your head out of the equation, because it's only us that can misinterpret. Spirit can't. This is like direct from, they cut out the middleman, if that makes any sense to you.
Completely. Yeah. Thank
Me
you for
is
sharing
out
that.
of it. It's the team. They're all together doing it, and it's just, they don't need me.
Right. Let's talk about the team, and tell me what that means to you and to others as far as you understand it. And do you know who your team members are, or is
I
it just
do. I
more?
know
Yeah.
it. I. It's funny because one day, when I was practicing with another medium, she said, I want you to get my spirit guide. You know, Hercules or whatever she wanted to call him. I said, well, I've never done that before,
Yeah.
but let me see. And this is all about trust. And I'm getting goosebumps already.
Yeah.
Um,
Me too.
I said, look, if your guide looks like SpongeBob and is yellow and has googly eyes and is bouncing off the walls and then jumps on a bucking bronco, I've got him. She said, that's him.
Wow.
That like just blew me away, because I thought, okay, she's gonna,
How would you know that?
how how would I? What's really amazing is that I had the guts to say it,
Yes,
because
because that's a weird one.
that was like
It's weird.
wacko. Yeah, that's
Yesterday, I did a reading where I said, I'm hearing Jeremy, and it was a mother and a daughter, and the daughter's like, that doesn't ring a bell. And I'm like, maybe I'm wrong, right? It might just be wrong. And then the mom goes, but I know this name. Like, I know it so well. And I said, hey, I don't have proof, but this woman is going through a really difficult challenge. I thought, hey, you know what? Maybe it's your spirit guide. I didn't see much, but I just kept hearing Jeremy, Jeremy, Jeremy. Now, spirit guides don't always care what their name is. That's just for your
right.
reference.
It's just for
It's
us.
not that they have a name. They want to give us one to relate with. But the other day, talking about channeling, a friend of mine is going through something really, really scary, intense. And I asked spirit to just guide me to help support her in the best way and kind of help her to come out of this. And I just texted her like pages and pages of, this is why this is happening to you on a soul level, and this is what you chose, and blah, 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 and this is what you need to learn. And I thought, wow, that I read it back and was like, did I say that? That wasn't. And she said to me, where did that come from? She wrote, where did that come from? Your spine? Did you just channel that? And I said, literally, honey, I
Yes.
did. Because I'm like, I was like, that was good. That was some good stuff. I just was typing and typing and typing.
Right.
And I knew, I was like, that wasn't me. I was just the
Okay. So
vessel.
you've dipped your toe in. Now it's time to dive in.
Yeah, that's so cool. So, are you currently, actually, I don't know this about you. Do you teach classes at this
Oh
through?
gosh, no.
No, okay.
No. I am, I will always be a student, because there's always so much to learn,
Yeah.
and I'm very focused. I mean, I know what there's, I feel guilty sometimes because I don't know anything about angels, or this or that.
Me neither.
My guides have just said, just focus straight on. This is your lane. Don't fall into the cliffs on the side. So I do know who my guides are,
That
and
was that was my question. Yeah.
some other, people that read me. There's like a new one here and there, um, and I say hello to them every day. We like do a high five um, down the line, and then they come in. It's like there's a door on the side of me, and they all just pile in with angels, with my family, and they all get inside me, and then I go from there with meditation, and I can feel them. I It's interesting when I was at Hogwarts last August. We
That's
did.
Arthur Finley School for any of those
Yes,
who
yes.
don't know. That's
It's
our
the
nickname.
original. It's what
Yeah.
Hogwarts was built after. Um, we did table tipping. Okay, now I don't know if you know what that is. It's like energy, and the tables start to tip, and it's spirit doing it. And like we just have like fingers, like just on it. We're not putting any pressure, and it's like it can walk around a room. My teacher was Tony Stockwell, so the
Mm.
tables were tipping, and I said, Mom, if you're here, give me a hug. And the table literally walked over to me, and I could feel a hug. And everyone is like screaming, oh my God. Oh,
Wow.
so I can feel it now. I just say, give me a hug, everybody, and let's go. And my I have spirit animals. I have two. So I always, because there's nothing, if you're a dog lover, there's nothing like just loving your dog and kissing your dog and hugging your dog, and that is a complete vibration raiser for me. So
Yeah.
I get my vibration up through all of that, and having so much gratitude and thank you, and I climb up a ladder and give God a hug and come back down, and then I just start my day.
Yeah. Talking, so you just mentioned dogs, right? I have had so many messages come through from pets, and I'd love to hear your experience with animal communication, which in my experience is no different from human communication, other than that their life experience is a little bit more limited. But their soul actually has a lot to say. So I'd love to know if you have what your thoughts about that are.
You're ahead of me on that, but who's counting? I don't, all I usually get is, okay, there's a little brown and white,
Yeah.
yippy dog jumping on you and sitting in your lap, and they're, stroking it. But I mean, a lot of people get, oh, we'd love to throw the ball under the couch and make everyone come get it. I'm not getting that. But it's
You still might
I
over,
might,
yeah,
things.
yeah.
I'm always growing, so but yeah, I could use a little of that. Then there's people that do just animals, and they're amazing. Yeah, he's really pissed at you because you got rid of that red ball because it was cracking. So if he's a little, miffed, now you know why. I don't get
I don't get that either in terms of, like, being able to mind read,
that.
but connect with people's animals that I'm aware of, because there's I don't know how to validate that. Maybe I could practice we could practice if we wanted to, right? And get feedback, but, for me, it's just like you said, "Oh, there's a golden retriever, Lucky. Yeah, we did have a dog named Lucky. Did you bury him in the garden? Yeah, we did." Just little things
Yeah,
like that, and really they're just saying I'm here. It's
right,
more just evidence to know that it really is me and I'm here. It's nothing. But the pig actually said, my mom, who was the person sitting across from me, has had a major surgery. And I was like, who's had a hysterectomy? And she's like, I have ovarian cancer. And I've been like, she had been recovering from it. So the pig was sort of saying, I'm part of your spirit team. Like, my soul is with your family. I don't know that the pig necessarily has healing powers, but I think they're all watching over her, including her pets. Just we're all here together, gathering around you as you heal. So I think they do, on a soul level, have those they're no
right.
different from us, because they were put into
We
a
just have
different
to,
body.
yeah, just have to do a little more practice. Maybe you and I can practice on animals.
That would be fun. I know. So I love anecdotal stories. I know that we have client confidentiality, and so we have to respect that. But if there's anything that comes to mind, you did tell me just a really cute kind of thing that if you feel comfortable sharing
Yeah.
that or any story that these ones that stick out, I think just cement our
Okay,
own
one of the
faith.
ones that I can't even believe that came out
Yeah.
of my mouth is that I have a client who I see a lot, and she every time she goes, I you keep telling me my husband's around me. I don't feel him. I just don't feel him. And I said, well, you got to stop testing me, because every time we find out it is him and he is around you and you're shocked, but this is it. So she goes, all right, this is it. I've been binge watching something, and he would never watch it with me. If he really is around me, have him tell you what the show was. And I thought, this is like 1 in 20 million. What?
I know.
And all of a sudden I say Outlander. She goes, that's it. I said, what? I was so shocked.
Yeah.
So that one really sticks out. Oh, here's another one. It's really funny. I had a let's just say a very skeptical client. Um, and she just was she everything I felt like I was being judged at the Olympics, you know.
Yes.
Well, I gave her a pizza dog. That could be very broad. That's not quite enough. I said, look, okay, I really was getting uncomfortable. Um, and I just said, money back. I'm
Yep.
just not doing, I just can't anyway. I just said, I just want to say at the end that your daughter's sign is going to be unicorns. And she looks at her daughter and says, there's nothing with unicorns in us, not happening. She calls me a year later and said, please make the unicorns stop. She said, they're unicorns for the last year everywhere, just signs everywhere. Oh, her whole world is unicorn. So I said, see, you're welcome, But then a few days later, I got in touch with her and I said, look, your husband came to me last night. Excuse me. Your husband came to me and he showed me a half of a toasted bagel that was scooped out. I said, does that mean anything to you? She goes, everybody scoops out their bagel. That's not evidence. I said, okay,
I don't scoop out my bagel.
well, I don't either. I like the whole thing. But I said, okay, just beware. I get a call a week later. She goes, I took my daughter to her father who passed to their house in Florida, so she could be with her grandparents. And his father said, I invented a product, and I want you to see it. I only have a prototype. But she said, sure. She said, let's see if you can see what it is. So he shows her this thing and she goes, I have no idea what that is. He said, it's a bagel scooper.
Oh my God. I mean, you can't,
Can't make this stuff up. I always say to a client, I am not good enough to make this
I know.
stuff up.
I know.
It's not me. It's something really crazy that is still happening. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, one day I get like 5 people emailing me. I just got a confirmation of a reading that we're going to have, in 2 days. She said, I didn't make it. I said, that's crazy. I don't even understand how I don't even know. And I got 5 people that day said the same thing. And I just said, to what? And one of them said, in the message sent box, it had the name of my housekeeper. You don't know the name of my housekeeper. Why is that in there? And I said, I am so sorry. I didn't want people to think I'm
Right.
bragging
Scamming them or yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
I said to this woman, I said, look, is there any reason that that spirit may put your housekeeper's name in there? And she said, her son died 2 days ago.
Oh my God.
And I found out that the other people as well were having some kind of, and I'm getting goosebumps on that they also were having an issue with their daughter, and their daughter's name was in it. So it got crazy. And it started happening again. And I got 30. They sent out 30 messages for everybody on like January 2nd at 3:00. I had 30 people booked. I didn't do anything. And I just had to, it was a
Yeah.
nightmare. I had to call and say, look, just It's nothing. Anyway, that's really crazy. That was really crazy.
That is so yes, and so this is something I love, period. I love, full stop, is that sometimes the messages come through in just a word or a thought or an image, and that's enough. And then sometimes spirit has a way of orchestrating things in the physical realm, just like that, right? So, yes, spirit is energy. Energy can be manipulated. Technology is energy. We're energy. So, oh, I just got chills. So, last night, a client of mine was like, "Hey, can we schedule a reading?" We're texting, right? And he's like, I said, "I'm sick." He's like, "Oh, I have the flu." And I know him. He's a regular. And I
Yep.
said, "Oh, poor guy. He's all alone." So I asked his husband on the other side, and he said I could share this. I asked him. I asked his husband on the other side, "Can you just give Mitchell some love, right? Like some just before our reading." So because I know he's just heartbroken. And so I said, "Okay, he's showing me cranberry out of a can, like cranberry sauce out of a can with the ridges on it." And I said, "And rosebud." He said, "Rosebud." And he said, "I don't know what rosebud means, but look right in front of me." He had a thing of, in a Tupperware bowl, half a can of cranberry sauce. So
Uh,
it's like, okay, he's saying that he's right there with you. He sees what's literally in front of you. He goes, "Look, it's right here on the counter." I'm like, "That's amazing." Then I said, "Okay, well, maybe I'm wrong about Rosebud." And this is another thing about trust, is like, just because someone says no, don't necessarily give up on it. Don't abandon the idea, because here's what happened next. Um, then he said, I said, "He's saying, thank you for taking care of me when I was sick. Now I'm going to take care of you when you're sick." Pretty generic. So I'm like, I don't know if that's coming from me. I said, "But now he's showing me the two of you." He said, "Every January." I heard him say, "Every January, every January." And he showed me you two sitting on the couch in front of a fireplace, snuggling and watching movies together. He's like, "We always did do that every January for like weeks after Christmas." I'm like, "Okay, I mean, that's cute. That's nice. Also not so specific, but okay." And then he writes me back just a little bit later, "Shannon, I have to show you this. After you said the thing about the movies, I decided to go in the garage to pick a movie out of our pile that we used to watch together so I could watch in his honor. Right on top of the stack of whatever DVDs, there was a get well card, and he showed me pictures of it, and I have it on my Instagram. It says get well soon, and you open it up, there are four rosebuds, dried
wow.
rosebud lined up, and it says, "I love you, Mitchell, forever and always. Get well soon." And I was like, that I
That
mean,
that's amazing. I
like,
have one. It is. It's just
please tell
amazing.
me. I love all the stories, so bring them on.
Uh, when this, I had, I had a client, and she had just lost a son, and I said, I like to do a question and answer during it. And the first question, I said, I don't want to know what the question is, because I don't want my head to get involved.
Mhm.
And I'll just tell you what they show me. So I said, I see a little boy, and he's riding on the back of a giant butterfly. And he's zooming and he's having the most fun, but he's on the back of a butterfly in heaven. I said, does that's what he's showing me? So she gets up and shows me a book. She said, when my son died, I needed to find a way to tell his sister, his little sister. So I bought this book about how to talk to children about passing. And she said, and here's the page where the little boy is riding on the back of a giant butterfly. That's what I asked. What is my son doing right now in heaven? Goosebumps, goosebumps.
Goosebumps. I have to see, like, visibly on my arms, there are goosebumps. And that's
That
yeah. Sometimes when someone says, "What," they're testing you, not in a bad way. Just sometimes they're like, "Well, if this is real, I need to hear this." That can be tricky. And exactly what you said is right, that if you stop to think, you're going to get in your head.
exactly, and that's why I don't. I prefer, after the first one, because it takes a little more
Yeah.
time, and I usually get something very symbolic, like. Um, but yeah, that those kind of things just make you say, I'm in, I'm doing the right thing. This is what I'm meant to do. And I want you to know, James von Prague said, if you find your true purpose in life, you stop aging at that age. So it, call me in 20 years. I'm going to look the same. I'm never changing
Me
a
too.
picture.
I
And
think you and I both have that energy because people always assume we're younger than we are. I just, I'm always like, "Oh, no, honey, I'm old enough to be your mom." Like, I've had
yeah,
lots of a lot
I'm
quite a
with you
few boys
there.
ask me out recently where I'm like, "Oh, honey, you could be my child." Um, but yes, I agree because I feel now there's purpose and there's joy and there's excitement and there's energy,
And there's
um,
healing.
and there's
People are
so much
just
healing.
so, they're just so grateful because nothing's going to take away that yearning for a physical presence.
Yeah.
And what I say is, I can't bring them back, but I can bring them closer.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I'm a copywriter for 40 years before I did this. So,
Right, your Hallmark card. Yeah, exactly. That is so beautiful.
and and that's all we can do. Is and I did a helping parents heal presentation on things people can do to get closer, a closer connection on their own. So they don't need people like us. And if
Mhm.
everybody could do that, that's fine with me. I prefer that everyone had that joy that they could do. So I send out a reference page of like a lot of different things and that they can try to just bring things closer. So, and spirit loves to be tested. I tell people every week, give them a new symbol for them to show you within the week. And I said, it's got to be the first thing out of your mouth because they're putting it in there. They know where you're going to be and when. Don't start thinking about it because you only have 3 seconds after you think of something before your critical mind comes in and messes it all up. So that's and they'll find it. They'll get it. I just did a reading, and I said to the mom who's just so grief stricken. I said, just think of something in your mind right now. The first thing you think about that you want to be the symbol, and that you'll know he's around you, and that he hears you and sees you and everything. And I said, don't tell me what it is. I don't want to know. And then I said, all right. So now let's talk about something else you can do. Movie night. And she said, that was my symbol. That was my symbol. I said, this is the fastest answer I've ever gotten. Okay. It's like 1 second. So spirit knows what I'm going for. You know what I mean? They can do so much stuff.
I know, and it's so I love everything you're saying is exactly what I say, and it's so cool to hear that you work the same way or the similar way where I had a client ask me and he's watching this now because he's my most loyal listener and friend. And he said, "Can you tell me what my wife's spirit name is?" Well, to me, that didn't, I was like, spirit name? I don't know that there's such a thing. And so I'm sitting there thinking, and I went, no, wait, I have to just not think about this. So let's just go move on. I said, we'll move on. If it's meant to come in, it'll come in another way. And I just let it go. Because if I think, then I'm like, is it Sandra?
Right.
Is it Angela? Is it? So we keep talking, we keep talking. And then I said, I hear her voice. Why is she saying to me, honey, enjoy, enjoy? And he goes, Shannon, before she died, I told her, when you become a spirit, your name is going to be Joy because you are such a beautiful light and you have such a beautiful spirit. And, or sorry, Kenny, if I'm misinterpreting this, but it was like, that was her name. And I said, why is she stressing that
Joy.
enjoy? She
Joy.
was also saying, please continue to enjoy life and keep moving forward. I will be there with you until we meet again. So don't stop your life because I died. But I mean, and that's now what I've learned. And this is a tip for the audience is ask the question, let it go. Let it come in, let it just drop in. Don't think, even if you have to just keep talking past it. I would say 85% of the time, it comes rolling in a second where you're like, "That was it. That's the answer."
Right.
Incredible.
I find, what was I gonna say? Um, I tell people that your loved one only wants you to find joy and laughter again. That is your job, is to learn how to have a beautiful life again. They have spirit has they're not jealous. They don't deal with that. They just want you to be okay. And that's the first thing that they think of when they transition. I got to make sure that my family's going to be okay. So don't feel guilty if you laugh about something or you're enjoying something and you're not thinking about, your loved one who's not there anymore. That's what they want from you. And what's really difficult is the vibration and of someone who is in deep grief. That keeps spirit from opening the pathway for connection. They can't get through that muck. I always say, just you gotta meditate it away. You've got to pivot when you're thinking of how sad things are. And I also read that grief is not meant to make the ones left behind miserable. It's meant for you to remember the love. Because if you didn't care about them, you wouldn't feel so bad. But because you love them so much, that's what the other side wants you to feel, that vibration of joy and laughter, which is way up there. And it can also help you with grief. And I always say, watch a funny movie at 3 o'clock in the morning if you can't go to sleep, or put on your daughter's favorite comedian. Just they're there with you, and they want to see you moving forward, like you said, and being
Yes.
open, and not making spirit try to drudge through you. Some people I can get they passed 2 days ago, and there's other people 3 months where they can't get through.
Yeah. I, did
It's
a
too
reading.
heavy.
Yeah, the reading I did yesterday was amazing. The f the second time I had read this woman, she said no to almost everything, and I literally thought, "I'm gonna give her money back 'cause nothing's resonating here." It was her daughter had just passed, and, I didn't know that until I got on, or I would have said, "Why don't we just wait a little for the dust
Yeah.
to settle?" Not because spirit can't communicate, but because
Because
if you're in really deep grief, it's not just someone you knew peripherally. This is your child. Um, and she said, "No, no, 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 no." And then her other daughter came to me and said, "Everything you said," well, no, I'm sure there were things that didn't, but she said, I kept going, "Mom, what about this? What about that?" Then her deceased deceased woman's husband was like, I watched the video and it all made sense. And then the mother finally wrote to me this long thing of, I was in so much grief, I just couldn't see it.
they can't. Yeah.
And she said, now I'm going to just go through and validate everything you said in detail. And she gave me paragraphs of, when you said this, it didn't resonate, but now I know exactly what that was. And so it doesn't mean you can't receive the information close to a person's
Right.
passing, but
If
it
the grief
helps.
is
Yeah.
so thick, it's so hard for that person to be open to it.
Yeah.
Now, I've had somebody, and I always tell people, there may be some things I say to you now that you don't understand. So, tomorrow you can ask a relative, or when you listen to this again, you'll say, oh, that's now I get it. Now I get it. Uh, I said, I had a client who I told him during a reading, you've got a secret sister. And he said, I do not have a secret sister. Okay, I've been in this family for my whole life. Okay, not happening. It was getting a little testy. I said, okay, I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. So he gets in touch with me a year and a half later. He said, my father and I were going through some pictures, and my mother was standing next to a girl. And I said, who's she? He said, well, she's your secret sister. So he wanted to apologize because he was very adamant that I didn't know what I was talking about. And
Isn't that
it could
crazy?
it's crazy.
And I would love to hear just your thoughts on I think so many people think that this is so, we call it paranormal or supernatural. And I don't think it's, I think it is normal and natural. And our society has labeled it as something that's
Spooky.
totally impossible. And it's like, but look at the galaxy behind me. How is that possible? How can we procreate and make other people? That's a miracle. That's amazing. And take for granted evolution, all of it. Like, and I mean from a scientific standpoint, it's yes, all these incredible wild things happen with protons and atoms, and yet we're like, "Oh, no, but you couldn't possibly still exist after you die." And so I would like to know your thoughts on what is it that allows us to have this capacity to do this? How is this possible?
Uh, well, simply, we're all souls. We are all energy, and we are just here having a human experience. What's interesting is, when I learn about that some people that are around us are just players, just in our we all have a role to play in this world, and some people are really not real. I'm just been reading about that, but it's crazy. And then I thought today, you know, Shakespeare, I think he was really before his time, because I remember a phrase like, um, all the world's a stage and the people merely players. And it just like, why did I just think of that? Because we're just all, I don't know. To me, it's like if everybody knew what we have found out and experienced, that they're literally living in Alice in Wonderland. And this is just some crazy theme park and place for you uh, learn lessons and everything. And it's crazy town. They would they when they find out. I'd like to find out what people think when they finally get there and realize that their life was 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 what it was, and that they're going to come back because they didn't do so good in the marriage department or whatever. I don't think I answered the question, but
I whatever you said was
I
great, and I have a tattoo on my arm that says life is but a dream, because what I have come to realize is that while this is super important and our connections are very important, because apart from our human selves, our souls chose to have this experience together. So we already, the people that we really interact with very intimately, that are huge influences and mirrors for us, I believe now from interviewing all these near death experiencers and
right,
people like you, and what spirit tells me is that we have our little spirit group, we're all blobs of light, and we're like, hey, in this life, you're going to be the dad, I'm going to be the
right.
kid.
The
This
pod, the soul pod.
Yeah, and you always end up back together. Maybe you play different roles to help each other
Yeah,
out. So even people that hurt us are often our greatest teachers. Well, not even. I mean, they are our greatest teachers. And sometimes you might say, that person harmed me. I hate them. And there are times in which I understand, there are horrible things people do to each other. But also, if we can look at a lot of our relationships and say, hey, think of this as, hey, our work is done here. I got you. We planned
right.
this.
But
We
then
got
they
each
then
other.
they go. But it's really hard to think of, why did they have to take a little child? Why does that little
Yeah.
3-year-old have to have brain cancer?
I know.
Why did, couldn't they learn a lesson some other way? But we just, luckily, we can say there's a reason, there's a purpose. And unfortunately, we don't know until we get to the other side. And when we get back here, we got amnesia. So we're not going to really know, um, having a talk like this, unless you remember what happens every time you go home.
Yeah, and I've had several friends lose babies, and it's the worst thing that can happen.
Right.
One of, but I heard it said, and I like this idea that somebody said, "Why do babies die? What are they to learn? If they're only a day old or 2 days old, then why did they do this?" And I heard because they weren't meant to be. It wasn't about their learning; it was about what their parents needed to
Parents.
learn. they taught them something.
Right.
And that's not to minimize
No, it
how
is
horrible that is. It's just, what did you learn? How did you love? How did you uh, cope? All of the things that are so important. And one day old babies give me messages just as much as an 80-year-old woman who's lived an
right.
entire lifetime. So in conclusion, I just want to give you the opportunity, since I may not have thought to ask you everything that you'd love to share, but just what's something that you really would love for people to know, that it could be a takeaway or just any kind of anything you'd like to share.
Um, let me see. Well, first I want to say one of my favorite
Please
little
do.
humor things. How many hold on. How many witches does it take to change a light bulb?
I don't know. How many witches does it take to change a light bulb?
Into what? Isn't that cute?
Oh,
I
that's
love
cute.
that. I love that.
Yeah.
The takeaway for me, I'm not a pontificator, but I just it's said a lot, like enjoy the moment. It's live in the moment, because we really don't know what we signed up for in our soul contract that we came down. And just try to, you can't change what negative things you think are happening to you. Um, and just try to pivot. Just try to pivot the way you look at it. If you can't change the situation, you can only change the situation, the way you look at it. Because I think that's really the only way to get through it, to understand this. We're all doing a lesson here. We are all learning to be better. And I do have a tip if you possibly don't want to come back. Um, we have, if you don't, be volunteer, do things for others, just give and be of service to others, because that's what we're going to do when we get up there. So if you get a head start, you might not have to come back as a bricklayer. So just
Thank
be
you.
good to others. That's the best thing,
Yeah.
because
I
you never
wish we
know
could
what they're
all.
going through. You really don't, behind the facade or the mask or the tears. You just don't know how much they're hurting. So be kind.
That's beautiful. Again, this is Barbara Banner, medium. You can find her, book a session with her at bannermedium.com. Is there anything else you'd like to share about things that you have coming up, events,
Um,
etc.?
since the last podcast, I've had a bunch of helping parents heal groups around the world who have called me in. So I'm going to do some gallery readings for them.
Oh,
Um,
love it.
so other than that, and I just want to say that if anybody's lost a child, that Helping Parents Heal is an international organization. It's like the most prestigious and the most valuable. Um, and they can really change how you go through this journey. So helpingparentsheal.org
Yes.
would be a
Thank you. Actually, I'd wanted to ask you to about that because it is a very wonderful organization, and I'm so glad you get to be a part of it. So again, Barbara Banner, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to share your insights, wisdom, and experiences. I know that we all can greatly benefit from them, and you are just a delight.
well. Thank you. I've really enjoyed that, and I think you're a delight too. So we should get together
We're
and chit
gonna.
chat. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye.